Hey, hi, Adrian. Today, we're going to continue from our first session. Today, we're going to want to talk about how to increase confidence, right?
Yes,
Now,
buddy.
as a psychologist, I'm going to jump straight to it, right? As a psychologist, from your perspective, what is confidence?
Confidence is simply the degree to which you believe that you can do a certain thing. So let's imagine you're talking about, say, a penalty shot. Then it is simply the degree to which the person taking the shot believes that they can score.
So that's definitely confidence. Okay. In that, following up on that, right? Follow up on that. How important is confidence for footballers then?
Oh, it's massively, massively, massively important. Some people even go so far as to say it's everything. And the reality is, the higher your level of confidence, the more success you're going to have. Now, obviously, you don't want to have ridiculously high levels of confidence. But what we
Mhm.
actually know is that if you really believe in yourself, you are far more likely to succeed. And study after study after study, be it golf, taekwondo, karate. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I'll give you a study in football where what they did, it was published in 2020, and what they did was they looked at the level of confidence of footballers, and then they got them to participate in a football shooting drill. Those who had the highest level of confidence had more shots on target. And it's not all that surprising when you look at other research that shows that confident people focus on what matters, ignore the rest, they keep their emotions under control, they persist, and as a result, they get more success. So I'll give you one more study published this time in 2018 with some footballers, and they were asked to fill out a questionnaire on confidence, and then they were asked to learn how to do a scissors kick. And what they found was those who had the highest level of confidence were more likely to learn the scissors kick.
Great. So, no, based on that position that a footballer might take, is overconfidence, you think, a problem?
Okay, we know that you are better off if you have higher levels of confidence than your skills actually suggest you should have.
Mhm.
What that might mean is, well, okay, so you clearly don't want to have a level of confidence that is insanely high, because that's just going to set you up for failure. However, the higher your level of confidence, the more you are likely to succeed. Right? So oftentimes you'll see with elite athletes, they truly believe in themselves. But if
Mhm.
you're an onlooker, you might listen to that and think, this person's just way too overconfident. And what I'd say to every single athlete listening right now is ignore what other people think about your perceptions of your ability to do something. Stick with a very high level of confidence, but make sure that it's not ridiculously high.
Great. No, Anna. Okay, no. From what you're saying, confidence is definitely important, right? Can this my next question? Can confidence be taught?
Oh, definitely, without a question of a doubt. When we were born, we had
Mhm.
no expertise in anything. We struggled to do almost anything. But with time, we started to gain a few skills and get better at things. And one of the reasons why is our brain did not allow us to do certain things. But as you get older, you can. Well, let me give you an example. So when you're born, you don't have the ability to make self assessments. You can't. Your brain is not that developed. But with time, your brain will change, get more developed, more complicated, more sophisticated. And as a result, you can make assessments of your ability, i.e., you can have confidence. Likewise, as you get older, you can then have some success. And then you have the opportunity to perceive you've had success and therefore increase your confidence. So you can work with a coach and increase skills, and that will allow you to have the opportunity to say, I'm getting better, and that will increase your confidence. And finally, you can also work with a sports psychologist. And if you work with a
Mhm.
sports psychologist, they can help you massively increase your levels of confidence.
Great. And you see, I love where you're going with it. Now, from a coach's perspective, now, can I teach? Can I coach a player who doubts themselves? to change and become someone who now may consistently believe in him or herself?
Oh, definitely. Okay, so firstly, what I'd do is I'd say to the coach, first thing you can do is talk to the player and remind them that unconfident people tend to dwell on their mistakes and their weaknesses. They are they're not as ambitious, and they give up on their goals a lot quicker. So you remind them of that, and then tell them, well, as a result of all of that, what you should be doing is focusing on your long-term goals. The second thing I'd say to the coach is make sure that you're not actually making the situation worse yourself. You might be, unfortunately, using punishment, and that's not going to help. That's going to make the situation worse. So what a coach should do is slow down and have a bit of a self-evaluation. Are you just sending positive messages? And then the third thing I'd say to coach is remind the player of my acronym POT, which stands for POT, perfectionism and overthinking. Now, with regard to perfectionism, I'm all for overcoming mediocrity and really aiming big and achieving amazing things. But that does not mean that you want to aim to be perfect, because all that's going to do is things like set you up for procrastination and eventually you're going to fail, etc. And so it's not a good model. Aim big, but don't aim to be perfect. And the OT, what we know from research is that if you are always evaluating and monitoring and thinking about your thoughts, that leads to things like anxiety, depression, and unfortunately, what we're talking about, a lack or a decrease in confidence.
Let's move from the coach now and get back to you as a psychologist. And we'll move to a player. What can a player do if they have a bad first half? And this happens a lot.
Okay. Well, the best advice I can give you is that the player should implement the techniques that they have learned and trained time after time after time with their sports psychologist. So, for instance, a very simple technique that they can use, which will only take 3 to 4 seconds, is use a thing called thought stoppage combined with a noise affirmation. Now, the difficulty with that is the average coach is not going to have a clue how to do that. And that's fine, because we're talking now about players. And if the player has worked with a football psychologist long enough, then they'll be able to do this. They'll need 7 hours to learn the noise affirmation and an extra 3 hours to learn the thought stoppage technique. Combined together, you're talking about 10 hours. But the really nice thing, as I said just before, is it will only take you 3 to 4 seconds on game day. The other thing that the player should do is, once again, having worked for a sports psychologist, use their routines that they have practiced over and over and over at training with their sports psychologist. So probably the thing that I can have the biggest impact on a player is, once they've done, say, 30 hours, 40 hours with me, is now create individualized routines that really help them with something like having to perform poorly on the first half, or having had a bad game, or whatever. And so what you need to do is practice and practice and practice your routines and training, so that they are automatically, you don't really think about them and you just make it happen.
Great. And we keep on that trend right now. What can I would say, how do you bounce back after you have just lost a match, which is similar?
Yeah, it is. But the technique I would use is a little different. What I'd say there is use visualization. Well, there's good research to show that all you need to do is visualize having done something in the past that you've done well. Just remind yourself of that time. So let's say that you just failed in this game, but you won last year the tournament. Remind yourself of what it felt like. Remember the day. Remember how you were feeling, what you were thinking on that day, for just little 5 seconds. And that boosts people's mood, makes them more likely to get focused and get back on the right track and focus on their long-term goals. And one of the nice things about visualization is really simple stuff. It's just closing your eyes and visualizing yourself doing things better. So, for instance, one thing you should do is always visualize playing at a higher level. And if you are at the highest level, visualize playing in important games. But how it works partly is simply because when you're visualizing, you're not thinking negatively, you're not sabotaging yourself. And we know, as we talked about in the last video, that thinking positive causes you to use your parasympathetic nervous system and end up with great results.
That's great, man. Now we're coming to an end of another quick, video. Now this is it. Now for coaches who need it to be encouraged. Do you have any advice for coaches now concerning confidence, since it's such a serious part of the game for players?
Okay, so I'd suggest a number of things. One of the things I'd suggest is focus on positivity a huge amount and avoid negativity. All right. The second thing I'd say is that try and learn some sports psychology techniques so that even if you don't actually teach it yourself, you actually sort of understand where the sports psychologist is coming from. There's a really, well, I'll leave it at that.
You leave it at that, because at the end of this, I think I say confidence itself, and you show that confidence is really important for the development of players and coaches themselves. And I think it's important that we as coaches realize that psychologists play a big role now in the present day game. You know, not just at the lower level, no, not at the higher level, but if we can get an idea that we need them at the lower level, right? And then leading into this, so the next topic we're going to be discussing, our next video presentation, is how to increase hardiness. Now, let me be clear. I never heard of that term, hardiness. I mean, I don't know if it's a regular word, but I've never heard it. So just give me a little touch on what hardness might be and what we can look forward to in the next video we're doing.
Sure. Let me just finish off the last topic first. One thing that I should probably tell you about is there's a really nice study that was done by two researchers from the University of Valencia in Spain. And what they did was they assessed the level of confidence of some athletes, 69 of them. They got them to go off and do a hurdling technique, and then they manipulated the feedback. And what they eventually found, it was actually quite a sophisticated study, but the end result was quite simple. That the athletes who received positive feedback were the ones who increased their confidence the most.
Nice,
right? Now, in terms of what we're going to be talking about next time, hardiness, it sort of fits in. Hardiness, I like to think of it as like the backbone of a fish. It gives it that rigidity, stability. It allows you to do amazing things when other people would fall apart. So you can think of it like resilience.
So, all right. So we leave it at that, and I leave that the question here that they all can see what we're talking about, hardiness. Looking forward, as usual, touch and go, as I say. You know, the last topic we did was excellent, and we're touching on confidence now, which plays right into the role and how players and coaches should look at how confidence can build their game. Thank you. I think I'm looking forward to this hardiness. I've never heard about it, so I really, really want to get more information on it next time we speak. Good one. Nice to speak to you again, Adrian.
Likewise.
Good to have you here. All right.
Ciao, ciao.
Good take good care.
Thank you.